All right, so put up a video. I don't know what time reference it will be in relation to this video, but I would pass it out as province, and we're real excited about that. First order of business is to put the brake slicks back on because I can't stand the way the car looks like this. But I wanted to do a video addressing a question that I got that I was trying to find answers for years ago and never really could find really conclusive information on. Found some stuff, but basically just made up my own mind. But I want to make the argument, well, I don't know, maybe make an argument, but also answer questions the way I think it should be answered. What do you do if you're trying to get aftermarket rims and you cannot find a matching center bore size? So, or also known maybe as like a hub bore size or a hub match size. So in searching for this car, I went through basically every single page on Summit Racing and other websites trying to find the right center bore, and I could not find it. Now, granted, for some more popular muscle cars or more popular cars, you probably could find the correct matching hub size, but for a car like a Thunderbird, nobody really hot rods them, whatever. I could not find a single aftermarket rim that had the same hub size. So what do you do? Well, there's a couple of things you could do. And I looked into this, ended up not going with it, at least not yet. But you could get a machine shop to make you an adapter ring. Some rims come with adapter rings, but as far as like matching, you could get a ring machine to take up the slack between your hub and your center bore, and then you could heat press it on, or you could use heat to set it on, and it'll cool and it'll stay on there, and that'll basically join your gap. But I don't want to broad brush, because I know there are certain applications where this probably would be a lot more vital, such as an 18-wheeler or something that has a lot of shear weight. But I'd like to make the argument that, and it is a fact, it's not just an argument, but the whole reason for having a hub-centric ring, especially as it relates to tapered 60-degree conical lug nuts, is just to make it easier to mount your tire. Now, if you do not have conical lug nuts, it is almost impossible to get your tire centered without a proper matching hub center. However, with conical seats, which is the majority of lug nuts, and I don't have one off to show you, but on the one side it's tapered, and they're all the same as far as I know. There might be some different angles, but your standard is 60-degree conical lug nut. And so one side is flat, one side is tapered. That has to go in. And you would not believe, and I even did this when I was a younger guy, but you would not believe how many times I've seen like trailer tires or whatever with the lug nuts on backwards, at least one of them or whatever. Or because a lot of people are like, oh, surely that can't go in, that must go out. No, that's supposed to go in. The taper goes in, and it matches, I can show you on this one, it matches the angle of the bore here. And what that does is it's called a lug-centric wheel. Now, some wheels and some tires, such as like some GM products, especially like their trucks and stuff, will maybe have like a captivated washer, and it'll on the lug nut, and it'll be flat at the back. That is almost imperative that you have a hub-centric wheel for that. But when it comes to something like this is only for ease of installation. So you can just kind of slap the wheel on, torque it down, and you're good to go. Whereas if you don't have a matching wheel, and I'll show you this, but you have to seat it and seat your lug nuts very slowly, and to make sure that it's seating properly, and then you're not just like running it in with it dropping and sagging. But to prove that, you take a feeler gauge, and I know it has to be thin enough to actually bend this oval, but I just want to prove. See, that slipped right in. That side's a little tight because it's obviously down, but I can essentially work it through all points of the tire. It goes in there. So the only spot it actually seems to maybe be contacting, and it's not contacting there, so maybe it's a high spot here or a deformity in the rim, but nothing here is actually bearing weight. A lot of people think, oh, you have to have it centered to bear weight. That is not true. And like I said, I don't want to broad rush because I can't speak authoritatively when it comes to like 18-wheelers or tractors, because that is a little bit of a different story. But even then, they have way more lug nuts, so the multiplication of the torquing factor is exponentially higher. Some guys say, oh, I've sheared off lug nuts. Well, typically that's for some other reason, like poor steel or something. But just a fact that this has, you know, it's not going to keep it from rotating. Now, if you have like a NASCAR wheel or whatever, that's a different story, where you have like a matching star pattern or whatever to keep the rim from spinning. Different story. But as far as Center Automotive, this has no bearing. Now, granted, some might be a little bit tighter, but if they were tight, you'd never get your wheel off. After a little bit of rust, you'd never get your wheel off. So they don't make it super tight. It's just close enough to center your wheel, to make it easy to center your wheel, rather. But it's not contact anywhere. So all that is holding this wheel on and centering it, in this case, this aids in the centering, granted, but all that is actually holding both the shear weight and I guess like the pull away force is just the nuts, the lug nuts. So you do not need to have a matching center bore to correctly and safely mount your tire. Now there is, if you don't have that, you do need to take special attention to mounting it, and I'll show you how to do that here. Okay, hopefully you can see that. So one thing just to clarify, in case anybody's wondering this or thinking this, when it comes to your brake drum, that is crucial that you have the right one and that it is hub centric. But that aside, you want to take your wheel. I always do this beforehand, but just do a visual inspection that there's nothing like, no crazy high spots or anything that's going to interfere with the mating surface. Same thing here, but that's kind of an aside. Now, I did jack my car up higher than I like to, because I needed to do get underneath. Normally I just jack it just high enough so the tire comes off the pavement to make it easier to lift on. It's starting to rust a little bit. So, got the tire on. I can see it's there, and I'm just going to set my lug nuts. One thing you want to check on, hopefully you can see that, but every so often, if you got old ones like this, they should, you know, think about replacing them. But these ones are okay for me for now, because and I do have two new ones. But you want to check that the slope surface on the nuts is not distorted, and that the inner degreed angled what's the right word, tapered, I guess those all work, but anyways, the both tapered surfaces are not like marred really bad or whatever. And always never use a power tool on this step, because this needs to kind of be watched by hand. Now, I might be a little bit more risky than some people are. Personally, I think lubricated lug nuts is not necessarily a bad thing, but if you don't know what you're doing, don't do it. But, and I'm not implying that I'm an expert. Hopefully I do know what I'm doing. Let me just move the camera here. But to aid in just centering, I'm not going to spray the threads ahead of time, but just right as it comes down, I'm just going to put a little squirt right on the surface there. So it theoretically shouldn't really get on the thread, but it's just going to aid in reducing friction between the two seating surfaces, the two degreed seating surfaces. My straw flew out. Which one did I miss? I think I missed this one here. So just a little bit, not much. And this isn't absolutely crucial, but especially if you have rusty lug nuts or a rusty rim. And now, you need to basically start with one, and you're going to keep your eye on the two tapers. Let me get you in a little closer here. So let me see, where am I going here? Is a good example. So you want to look up and make sure that your two tapers, because what will happen is the rim is oversized and your holes here are oversized, so the tire's going to want to slide down and be low. So if you just let it sit and jam her down, it's going to be way off. And you can obviously see here my ring's not the right size. So let me try to get you in a position where you can see this. I'm going to get the monkey wrench in here. Not even a bad idea to do this with a, just gotta find the right one, sorry. With a socket and a wrench. A ratchet and a socket. But yeah, just slowly turn it in, and you wanna just basically bring them gradually, but you especially wanna focus on the lower one or the upper one. And if it's really off, you're gonna need to lift into place. But that slow, gentle action is going to ensure that it's seated and it's not just resting on one side. So, and then as you kind of get them, sorry for the jiggling there, but as you kind of get them in and you think you're tightened or you think it's seated properly, just back one of them off and just, let me try to get the camera in here. And as it's going in, just observe all the way around here that it's seating and that the two surfaces are meeting, that that it's not like off to one side or up and down. Hopefully that makes sense. But you know, you will know if your tire is balanced, and I actually just got these balanced today, but if they are balanced and whatever, and you have a shaking and you know, take it off drive, it starts to shake, it's not the end of the world. Just, you know, slow down, turn around or whatever. But that will tell you if you're off. But I think I'm probably overcomplicating it a little bit, but that's what you want to look for. Then slowly, you know, once you know that they're all seated in their seat properly, that's not like dropped and whatever, then, you know, obviously torque your tire, take it for a test drive, and then retorque after, you know, 50 to 100 kilometers. So let me just zoom this out so I get my face in here. So yeah, that's about it. And then, you know, the no-brainer, but just check your tire pressure, because obviously if that's low, it could give you a false impression that your tire is bad. So anyways, hopefully that was helpful, and see you in the next one.
All right, just in my editing office here, and I just wanted to reiterate a few things. I touched on them in the video, but there's always that chance that I didn't quite go over thoroughly enough. But basically, two things that I just want to reiterate. Do not try that method, or do not try to mount a rim that has a different center bore unless and exclusively if it has 60-degree conical or another sort of tapered lug nut. If it has a flat backed lug nut, you cannot. I would absolutely not recommend even attempting it, because there's nothing to keep the wheel from sliding down under pressure. So only attempt this if you have degreed lug nuts, tapered lug nuts, and matching tapered rims too. Now, you could have a set of tapered lug nuts without a set of tapered rims, and it would be better, but still not proper. So just ensure, if you're not sure, make sure that your rims are tapered to receive a tapered lug nut, and that your lug nuts are tapered. So just do your homework, make sure you have the right combination, but do not try it with a flat lug nut, a flat backed lug nut, and I don't have one to show. And then the other thing is make sure, I did touch on it briefly, but make sure that both your lug nuts and your rims are in good condition. Both the mating surfaces between the lug nut and the receiving hole are the same, are in good condition and are the same taper, because if they're not, your rim could be off. And again, it's not like a life and death thing. Your wheel's not going to come off, but you could damage something. And then, to reiterate, if they're both okay, both in good condition, take care to tighten the lug nuts down very slowly, as I showed, because if you're not slow enough, Now, I'm probably making it sound more scary than it is, but if you don't know what you're doing, or if somebody already did this and you just slap it on and think that they're going to center, they probably will center it. But if you don't go slow enough and watch, it could be off-centered, and then you could actually mar your surfaces. You could distort the tapered surfaces. So just wanted to reiterate those things, just because, you know, mounting tires is not something to take lightly. It is very crucial that they're done safely, and also I absolve myself of any responsibility if you try this at home. But I've done it, and I just wanted to make this video just to kind of show that in this case of conical lug nuts, that the rim, the hub bore, is not actually supporting anything. So just to prove that and to make that clear. So hopefully this little explanation helped out, and thanks for watching.